Would you marry someone with $50,000 in credit card debt? What about someone who refuses to tell you their credit score? In a recent survey, 54% of Americans said a partner's debt is a valid reason for divorce. Yet most couples avoid these crucial money conversations until it's too late. Today, I'm sharing the exact financial red flags I missed in my own failed relationship that cost me thousands and years of heartache. Plus the 5 money conversations that would have saved me if I'd had them early enough. The $50,000 mistake: how financial secrets destroyed my relationship. Have you ever found yourself deep in a relationship before discovering your partner's massive debt? That's exactly what happened to me. I thought I had found someone who had it all together. Good job, nice apartment, always picked up the tab for dinner dates. All the signs pointed to financial stability. We met through mutual friends at a backyard barbecue. Jamie, not their real name, had this effortless confidence that drew me in. Within 6 months, we were practically inseparable. The relationship moved quickly: weekend trips, meeting families, and eventually, a conversation about moving in together. Jamie suggested we look at apartments in one of the trendier neighborhoods in the city. The places we toured were gorgeous, but definitely at the top of our budget. When I suggested something more modest, Jamie would say things like, "We work hard, we deserve nice things," or "You only live once." I took this as ambition, not a warning sign. About 8 months into our relationship, we decided to move in together. We found this beautiful apartment with hardwood floors and a rooftop deck. The application process was going smoothly until the property manager called me personally. "There seems to be an issue with your partner's credit check," she said in a hushed tone. "I wanted to let you know before we proceed further." That evening, I had to bring it up. "Hey, the property manager mentioned something about your credit. Is everything okay?" Jamie's face fell. After a long pause came the confession. $50,000 in credit card debt. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. $50,000 on credit cards. The apartment we'd been dreaming of? Gone. We had to settle for a much smaller place in a less desirable area where they didn't check credit as thoroughly. But the apartment was just the beginning. The real issue was the massive breach of trust. All those fancy dinners, weekend getaways, and designer clothes had been funded by plastic. The person I thought was financially responsible was living a completely unsustainable lifestyle. What hurt most was how long Jamie had hidden it. We'd had countless conversations about our future, talking about saving for vacations, eventually buying a home, even retirement dreams. All while this massive financial secret was lurking beneath the surface. Life changed after the revelation. Suddenly, I was the one covering more of our shared expenses. "Just until I get this debt under control," Jamie would say. But months passed, and credit card statements showed minimal progress. Meanwhile, the shopping bags kept appearing. I started noticing patterns I'd overlooked before. The nervous changing of subjects whenever money came up. The mysterious packages delivered while I was at work. The wallet always forgotten when we went out with friends, leaving me to cover the bill. The resentment grew like a weed. I started calculating how much extra I was paying for rent, groceries, and utilities, essentially subsidizing Jamie's ongoing spending while trying to help pay down that massive debt. Some months I was covering nearly 70% of our joint expenses, despite us making similar salaries. Arguments about money became our new normal. "You're so controlling?" Jamie would say when I questioned a new purchase, or "You're being cheap," when I suggested we eat at home instead of going out. Sometimes the response was, "I had a stressful week. I deserved to treat myself." We had no tools to discuss finances productively. Every conversation devolved into accusations and defensiveness. I felt like I was speaking a different language sometimes. To me, tackling the debt aggressively made perfect sense. To Jamie, debt was just a normal part of adult life, something to manage, not eliminate. The emotional toll was exhausting. I'd lie awake at night running calculations in my head. If we wanted to buy a house someday, how would we ever qualify for a mortgage with that kind of debt? If we wanted to start a family, could we afford it? What if there was a medical emergency or job loss? Meanwhile, Jamie seemed weirdly unconcerned. "Things will work out," was the constant refrain. But I couldn't shake the anxiety. I started having stress dreams about credit cards and debt collectors. My own financial goals were slipping away as more of my income went to covering our basic needs. The relationship lasted another year and a half after the debt revelation. I kept hoping things would change. Jamie would occasionally make gestures, cutting up a credit card dramatically or showing me a slightly smaller balance. But then I'd find shopping bags hidden in the trunk of the car or discover a new credit card statement. The breaking point? When I found out Jamie had opened a new credit card without telling me, after promising not to. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about honesty, shared values, and being able to build a future together. I couldn't do another day of worrying while watching my partner make the same decisions that got us here. Breaking up was brutal, but necessary. Walking away from someone you love because of money feels shallow on the surface, but it wasn't really about the dollars. It was about the deception, the different values, and the realization that we wanted fundamentally different futures. You might think my experience is unusual, but the statistics tell a different story. According to Ramsey Solutions, money fights are the second leading cause of divorce, right behind infidelity. Think about that. Money problems break up more marriages than disagreements about children, sex, in-laws, or any other typical marital battleground. Conversation number 1. The debt discussion. What you're really taking on. Those divorce statistics might be depressing, but what if I told you there's one conversation that could dramatically reduce your chances of becoming another financial casualty? The debt discussion isn't just about numbers. It's your first real glimpse into your potential partner's entire financial value system. Look, I'm not saying to whip out a credit report on your first date, but here's a shocking reality. Nearly 2/3 of all marriages start with at least one partner in debt. And if you're dating someone younger, that number skyrockets to 86% for couples married 5 years or less. Let that sink in for a second. Why is this conversation so critical? Because when you commit to someone, you're not just getting their charming smile and great taste in movies, you're potentially taking on their financial decisions too. That student loan debt might affect your ability to buy a house together. Those maxed out credit cards could tank both your credit scores when you try to rent an apartment. But here's the tricky part. How do you bring up debt without coming across like you're interviewing a loan applicant? Nobody wants to feel like they're being judged for their financial past, especially in those early butterfly-filled dating stages. The key is approaching these conversations with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of interrogating them about their debt-to-income ratio, try something more natural like, "I've been working on paying down my student loans lately. Do you have any debt you're tackling?" This opener does two important things. It shows vulnerability on your part and frames debt as something normal that people work on, not as a character flaw. When they respond, pay close attention. Their answer will tell you so much more than just numbers. Are they open about their situation? Do they have a clear plan? Or do they get defensive, vague, or try to change the subject? The specific questions you want answers to eventually are, what types of debt do you currently have? What's your plan for paying it off? And how do you feel about debt in general? These questions reveal not just their current financial situation, but their entire approach to money. Not all debt tells the same story either. Someone with student loan debt probably invested in their education and future earning potential. Medical debt often comes from circumstances beyond someone's control, but maxed out credit cards from luxury purchases? That might signal impulse control issues or living beyond their means. I recently heard from a viewer who discovered her boyfriend had $30,000 in credit card debt from gaming equipment and electronics. The issue wasn't the amount. It was that he had no plan to pay it off and was still adding to it every month. Meanwhile, another viewer shared that her partner had $80,000 in student loans but was aggressively paying them down with a solid 5-year plan. Same ballpark debt amount, completely different financial values. The National Debt Relief Survey found something truly eye-opening. 54% of people believe having a partner with debt is a major reason to consider divorce. But here's what's fascinating. It's rarely about the actual amount. It's about transparency, attitude, and accountability. Watch for these red flags in how they discuss debt. Defensiveness is a big one. If they get irritated or hostile when you bring up finances, that's a warning sign. Vagueness is another. If they can't or won't tell you specifics about their debt situation, they're either hiding something or, perhaps worse, they don't even know themselves. And pay special attention if they don't have any clear repayment plan. Someone who's comfortable drowning in debt with no exit strategy will likely continue making financial decisions that could drag you both under. Here's another script you can try later in dating. I'm thinking about my financial goals for the next few years. I'd love to hear about yours and see how they might align. This opens the door to a broader conversation where debt naturally comes up in context. A huge 35% of people blame finances for the stress they experience in relationships. That emotional toll is real. Anxiety about money seeps into everything from daily decisions about where to eat to major life choices like when to have children. Couples who frequently argue about money typically report much lower satisfaction in their relationships overall. The type of debt matters too. Research shows that credit card debt tends to cause more relationship stress than student loans or mortgages. Why? Because it often signals fundamentally different values around consumption and instant gratification versus long-term planning. Green flags to look for include complete transparency, someone who's willing to share their full financial picture, warts and all. A realistic payment plan is another positive sign. It shows they take responsibility and have financial self-awareness. And perhaps most important is an attitude that views debt as something to manage and eliminate, not as a normal way of life. I'm not suggesting you should only date debt-free people. That would eliminate most of the dating pool, especially for millennials and Gen Z, who are dealing with record student loans and housing costs. The question isn't how much debt is too much, but rather, what does their approach to debt tell me about our compatibility? Some people with six-figure student loans might be excellent financial partners because they're responsible, transparent, and have solid plans. Meanwhile, someone with just a few thousand in credit card debt could be a financial nightmare if they're hiding purchases, have no budget, and see debt as free money. So how much debt is too much in a potential partner? It's less about the dollar amount and more about three critical factors: their transparency about the situation, their attitude toward debt in general, and whether they have a realistic plan to address it. A partner who's honest about their debt, takes it seriously, and is actively working to improve their situation is showing the kind of financial responsibility that builds a foundation for trust. Conversation number 2, money personalities, spenders versus savers. While transparency about debt builds trust, it's your partner's day-to-day money decisions that will make or break your financial harmony. Ever notice how some couples can bicker over a $4 coffee purchase, but others peacefully plan six-figure home renovations? The difference isn't income level. It's whether their fundamental money personalities align or clash in ways they never saw coming. Let's talk about these money personalities because they reveal way more than just spending habits. They show how someone fundamentally views and values money in their life. This goes way deeper than just labeling someone a spender or saver. Research shows there are actually distinct money personalities like tightwads, who experience actual pain when spending money, versus spenders, who feel almost no discomfort whatsoever when making purchases. Think about it. When your partner drops $200 on concert tickets without blinking while you're sweating over a $40 dinner tab, that's not just different preferences. Those reactions come from completely different emotional relationships with money that were likely formed way back in childhood. And here's where things get tricky in relationships. Opposites often attract. The free-spirited spender finds the cautious saver responsible and grounded, while the saver finds the spender fun and spontaneous. It seems like a perfect balance at first, until you're trying to plan a vacation together or buy furniture for your first apartment. What started as complementary differences quickly becomes irresponsible spending versus controlling cheapskate accusations. This clash isn't just annoying, it creates serious relationship stress. Couples with mismatched money personalities argue about finances 3 times more often than those who share similar approaches to spending and saving. And these aren't just squabbles, they're deeply emotional conflicts because money decisions feel intensely personal. So how do you figure out someone's money personality before you're too emotionally invested? You need to ask some specific questions, but timing matters. You can't exactly whip out "what's your biggest splurge last year" on the first date. Talk about a mood killer. Instead, work these questions naturally into conversations as your relationship progresses. What was the best money you ever spent? This reveals what they truly value without judgment. Do you track your spending or use a budget? Their answer shows their approach to financial control and planning. How do you decide whether to buy something expensive? This reveals their decision-making process around money. What did your parents teach you about finances? This gets at the root of their money beliefs, but the real goldmine of information comes from simply paying attention during everyday dating scenarios. That date who insists on splitting the bill down to the penny, calculating exactly what each person ordered? Probably a detail-oriented money tracker. The one who always grabs the check and says, "I got this," without looking at the total? Likely values generosity and social impressions over penny pinching. Watch how they plan for trips too. Do they research extensively for deals, set a strict budget, and want everything planned in advance? Or do they prefer to book last minute and figure things out on the fly, even if it costs more? Neither approach is wrong, but they are fundamentally different ways of handling money that will impact every financial decision you make together. Here's a real eye-opener. Observe how they react when something unexpected happens that costs money. Did their car need a surprise $800 repair? Notice whether they calmly handle it as part of life or spiral into stress and anxiety. These reactions tell you tons about their financial resilience and how they'll handle the inevitable money surprises that pop up in relationships. Now, let me be clear. You don't need identical money personalities to have a successful relationship. Some of the strongest financial partnerships come from couples with different approaches who understand and respect those differences. The saver who appreciates how their spending partner helps them enjoy life more. The spender who values how their saving partner creates security for their future. What matters is awareness and communication. One of the most important questions you can ask a potential partner is simply, what is your relationship with money? This open-ended question invites them to share their money story without judgment and can reveal so much about their financial values. The real danger zone? Certain combinations of money personalities face unique challenges. The extreme saver paired with the impulsive spender is obvious, but even two savers can clash if one saves for security while the other saves for future luxury purchases. Two spenders together might have a blast until they realize neither one is planning for retirement. The most commonly missed red flag in new relationships isn't necessarily debt. It's fundamental differences in spending habits that get brushed aside in the excitement of new love. While you're focusing on your amazing chemistry and shared interests, you might completely overlook that they sweat over every restaurant bill while you believe in living in the moment. Or maybe you're meticulously saving for a house down payment while they're racking up experiences and Instagram-worthy vacations with no savings plan. These differences don't seem important in the honeymoon phase. You might even find their approach cute or refreshing compared to yours. But fast forward a few years when you're making joint financial decisions about housing, vacations, children, or retirement, suddenly those adorable quirks become fundamental values conflicts that play out in daily arguments. So what's the takeaway here? Understanding your partner's money personality isn't about judging them or finding someone identical to you. It's about knowing what you're signing up for and deciding if you can build a financial life together that respects both your approaches to money. Conversation number 3. Financial goals. Are you building toward the same future? Understanding your partner's money personality isn't enough if you're heading in opposite financial directions. Did you know that nearly 9 in 10 couples believe they communicate exceptionally well about finances, Yet many never discuss their actual long-term money goals until they're already committed. It's like two people who think they're on the same road trip because they agree on the music, only to discover one's heading to the mountains while the other planned a beach vacation all along. Let's talk about that massive elephant in the relationship room. Incompatible financial futures. You might be nodding along thinking, we're fine. We both use budgeting apps and split dinner bills fairly. But here's the truth bomb. You can have perfectly aligned day-to-day spending habits and still be building toward completely different financial destinations. Imagine this. You've been dating someone for a year. Everything seems perfect. You both earn similar incomes, you're both careful with money, and neither of you splurges unnecessarily. But then you mention your dream of retiring at 45 and moving to a cabin in Montana. Your partner looks at you like you've grown a second head and says, "Why would anyone want to retire early? I plan to work in the city forever and enjoy life as I go." Suddenly, your compatible present reveals a wildly incompatible future. One of you is aggressively saving 50% of your income for early retirement, while the other wants to work longer and spend more freely. Neither approach is wrong, but they're nearly impossible to reconcile under one roof. Or consider this real scenario. Maya and Ryan seemed like the perfect financial match. Both had good jobs, similar spending habits, and no debt. But 3 years into their relationship, Maya revealed she'd been saving for her dream home in the suburbs. Ryan was horrified. He had zero interest in home ownership and had been saving for extended international travel. They'd been dating for years without realizing they were building toward completely different lives. This is why you need to have the financial goals conversation early. Here are some key questions to uncover whether your financial futures align. Where do you see yourself financially in 10 years? What role does money play in your ideal future? How important is retirement planning to you? What does financial success look like in your eyes? Would you rather own a home or have the freedom to move frequently? The beauty of these questions is that they reveal values, not just numbers. When someone tells you they want to retire at 40, they're not just sharing a financial goal, they're revealing how they prioritize time over money in the long run. When someone says they want to own multiple properties, they're showing you what security means to them. The tricky part? Bringing up these topics naturally. Nobody wants to be on a second date with someone who suddenly asks, "So, what's your retirement plan?" Talk about a mood killer. Instead, look for organic opportunities. If you're walking past a beautiful house, you might casually ask, "Would you ever want to own a place like that?" Or when planning a vacation, observe how they talk about spending versus saving for the trip. When watching a movie featuring retirees, you could ask, "Have you thought about what age you'd like to retire?" The key is making these conversations feel natural rather than like a financial interrogation. Now, how do you interpret their responses? You're not looking for identical answers. That's unrealistic. You're looking for compatibility and willingness to find middle ground. For example, compatible but different. You want to retire at 50, they're thinking 60. Both goals show you value retirement planning, just on different timelines that could potentially be compromised on. Potentially problematic. You want to aggressively save for a house down payment in the next 3 years? They want to spend freely on luxury travel with no interest in home ownership, ever. These goals reflect fundamentally different priorities that would be harder to reconcile. Compatible values with different expressions. You want financial security through traditional investments. They want it through entrepreneurship. While the approaches differ, the underlying value of financial security is shared. Research shows that couples who regularly discuss their financial goals experience higher relationship satisfaction and lower financial stress. When you align on long-term vision, you create a powerful shared purpose that actually strengthens your emotional connection. Let me give you some real-world examples. Consider Jamie and Alex. Jamie wants to live minimally in a tiny home to maximize travel opportunities, while Alex dreams of a large family home in an expensive school district. These goals aren't just financial preferences, they represent entirely different lifestyles that would be incredibly difficult to merge. On the flip side, Taylor and Jordan have different but compatible goals. Taylor wants to build wealth through real estate investments, while Jordan focuses on stock market growth. They may take different approaches, but both are working toward building wealth for a comfortable retirement, making their goals ultimately compatible. Here's another scenario. Casey dreams of starting a business and is willing to take financial risks, while Morgan prioritizes job security and steady saving. This could work if they agree on a compromise. Perhaps Morgan's stable income provides a safety net, while Casey pursues entrepreneurship with a portion of their combined resources. The financial goals conversation does something powerful beyond just revealing practical information. It uncovers core values. When someone tells you they want to pay for their future children's college education, they're showing you they value education and family support. When another person says they want to donate 15% of their income to charity, they're revealing their commitment to giving back. These conversations can be intimidating, but they're far less painful than discovering incompatible financial visions after you've already merged lives. And here's the empowering part. Understanding these differences early gives you choices. You can decide if the differences are workable, if compromise is possible, or if you're simply building toward fundamentally different futures. So, what's the one money question you should ask by the third date? What are your biggest financial goals for the next 5 years? This question is revealing without being too intense for early dating. It's forward-looking, but not so distant that it feels like you're planning your retirement together prematurely. And most important, conversation number 4, financial transparency. The truth about money secrets. Those 5-year financial goals your partner shared sound amazing, but here's the twist. Nearly 1 in 3 people admit to making secret purchases their partner knows nothing about. What financial skeletons might be lurking in your relationship's closet, and how would you even know they exist? Financial infidelity isn't just about hiding a small splurge here and there. It's when someone deliberately conceals financial information from their partner, and experts consider it just as damaging as emotional or physical cheating. I'm not being dramatic here. The numbers back this up. A survey by the American Institute of CPAs found that 41% of Americans would be at least somewhat likely to end their relationship if they discovered their partner was financially dishonest. Let that sink in. 20% said they would be extremely or very likely to walk away entirely. I recently heard from a viewer named Sophia who discovered her partner had been hiding a second credit card for their entire 3-year relationship. I thought we were saving for a down payment together, she told me, but he'd been spending hundreds every month on online gambling. When I found the statements, he admitted he'd lost over $15,000. Their relationship didn't survive the betrayal, not because of the money itself, but because of the broken trust. This pattern repeats itself constantly. Another viewer, Marcus, shared how his ex-wife had secretly taken out a personal loan in her name to help her brother start a business, without discussing it with Marcus first. When the brothers' business failed, they were suddenly on the hook for payments neither had budgeted for. It wasn't just the debt, Marcus explained. It was that she didn't think our marriage was a partnership where big decisions should be made together. So how do you spot the warning signs before it's too late? Pay attention if your partner gets defensive whenever money comes up, changes the subject when you talk about finances, or seems to have spending habits that don't match their stated income. If they're unwilling to discuss money or get unusually protective of their phone when banking notifications pop up, these could be red flags. But simply watching for warning signs isn't enough. You need to actively create a space where financial honesty can thrive. This starts with asking the right questions. Try these conversation starters. How comfortable are you discussing money in general? This question reveals their overall attitude toward financial transparency. Have you ever felt the need to hide a purchase from someone? What was that experience like? Their answer here can show whether they view financial secrecy as sometimes justified or completely off limits. If we were to become serious, would you be open to sharing access to financial information as part of building trust? This isn't about demanding passwords to accounts. It's about gauging their willingness to be financially transparent in principle. What financial mistakes have you made that you learned from? This gives them an opportunity to disclose past issues in a non-judgmental context. When having these conversations, remember that your tone matters tremendously. If you approach the topic like an interrogator, you'll get defensive responses. Instead, share your own experiences first. I once hid a shopping spree from my parents and felt terrible about it later. Have you ever experienced something similar? Creating a judgment-free zone is crucial. If your partner admits to past financial mistakes but shows they've learned from them, that's actually a green flag, not a red one. Perfect financial histories don't exist, but honesty about imperfection absolutely can. There's an important distinction between financial transparency and financial control. Healthy transparency means both partners feel comfortable sharing information and making joint decisions about major expenses. Financial control, on the other hand, is when one partner uses money to dominate or manipulate the other. Teresa and James demonstrate healthy transparency. They maintain a shared spreadsheet where they track joint expenses and savings goals, but they each also have personal accounts for discretionary spending. No questions asked, as long as joint financial responsibilities are met first. We don't need to approve each other's coffee purchases, Teresa explained, but we do discuss anything over $300 before buying it. Contrast this with Kyle and Maria. Kyle insisted on seeing receipts for everything Maria purchased, criticized her spending choices, and limited her access to their joint account. He said he was being financially responsible, Maria told me, but it was really about control. She eventually left the relationship when she realized financial transparency shouldn't mean surrendering her autonomy. What's especially concerning is how much easier technology has made hiding financial activities. Digital banking, payment apps, and cryptocurrency have created new ways to conceal money moves that would have been much harder in the era of paper statements and cash. A secret Venmo account or hidden digital wallet can fly under the radar for years in even the most committed relationships. To complicate matters, certain responses during financial transparency conversations should put you on high alert. If your partner says things like, "My finances are my business, not yours," or "I don't see why we need to talk about this now, we're just dating," they're setting a precedent for financial secrecy that will be harder to change later. Watch for inconsistencies too. If they claim to be debt-free but seem constantly short on cash, or if they talk about saving aggressively but their lifestyle doesn't reflect those habits, something doesn't add up. These discrepancies don't automatically mean dishonesty, but they're worth exploring further. Research from the National Endowment for Financial Education found that couples who practice financial transparency report higher relationship satisfaction overall. It's not just about preventing financial infidelity. It's about creating a foundation of trust that strengthens every aspect of your relationship. So what concrete steps can you take to foster financial transparency? Start small. Share your financial goals and ask about theirs. Discuss your attitudes toward debt, saving, and spending. As the relationship progresses, consider having a monthly financial check-in where you both share wins, challenges, and plans. If you're already in a committed relationship and suspect financial secrets, approach the conversation with care rather than accusations. "I've noticed you seem stressed when bills arrive," opens dialogue better than, "I think you're hiding something from me." For new relationships, observe how they handle everyday money situations. Do they mysteriously disappear when the check arrives at dinner? Do they seem to live beyond their stated means? Or do they openly discuss financial matters without prompting? These everyday behaviors often reveal more than direct questions. The ultimate goal isn't to share every financial detail from the first date. That would be premature and possibly inappropriate. Instead, aim to establish a pattern of honesty and openness that grows as your relationship deepens. Financial transparency isn't a destination, but a practice that evolves as your lives become more intertwined. Conversation 5, money management, the practical side of love. While openness about finances evolves over time, so does the practical side of managing money together. Ever wondered if separate bank accounts mean a couple doesn't trust each other, or if merging finances is truly the mark of commitment? The answer might surprise you. Let's get real about the nuts and bolts of sharing financial responsibilities with someone. When you're dating, splitting dinner checks might seem simple enough. But what happens when you're deciding whether to merge bank accounts or figuring out who pays for what when your salaries aren't equal? These are the practical money management questions that can make or break your relationship. Here's something interesting. Couples who discuss their finances at least once a week report being 37% happier in their relationships. That's right. Regular money talks actually boost relationship satisfaction. Yet most couples wait until they're sharing keys to discuss whether they'll be sharing bank accounts too. When my friends Leah and Chris moved in together after dating for a year, they assumed they'd just figure out the financial stuff as they went along. Fast forward 3 months, and they were having weekly arguments about groceries, utilities, and who paid for what. Chris assumed they'd split everything 50-50 despite earning twice Leah's salary, while Leah thought they should contribute proportionally based on income. Neither approach was wrong, but their failure to discuss it beforehand created unnecessary tension during what should have been a happy time. So what questions should you be asking before taking major relationship steps? Start with the basics. How do you think couples should handle finances? This open-ended question reveals their fundamental philosophy without putting them on the defensive. Follow up with more specific questions like, do you prefer joint or separate accounts? And how would we divide financial responsibilities if we lived together? Let's talk about the 3 main money management models couples typically use. First, there's the completely joint approach. Everything goes into one pot, and both partners have equal access regardless of who earned what. This works beautifully for couples who value complete financial partnership and don't mind giving up some individual autonomy. Take Miguel and Sarah, who pooled everything after marriage. We don't think of it as my money or his money, Sarah explained. It's our money, and we decide together how to use it. The upside? Complete transparency and true partnership. The potential downside? Some people feel a loss of independence or anxiety about every purchase being scrutinized. On the opposite end is the completely separate model, where couples maintain individual accounts and divide expenses. This approach works well for independent-minded couples, those entering relationships later in life with established financial systems, or partners with vastly different spending styles. Jenna and Alex have been happily married for 8 years with separate finances. We split the major bills proportionally based on our incomes, but otherwise we each manage our own money, Alex said. I don't have to justify buying new camera equipment, and she doesn't have to explain her shoe collection. The benefit? Financial autonomy and fewer arguments about spending. The challenge? It requires excellent communication to ensure shared goals don't fall through the cracks. Most couples today actually choose a hybrid approach, a joint account for shared expenses and individual accounts for personal spending. This yours, mine, and ours system provides both partnership and autonomy. You might contribute proportionally to joint housing, utilities, and savings goals while maintaining separate accounts for discretionary spending. You can spot money management compatibility early in dating if you know what to look for. When planning trips together, does your partner expect detailed budgets or prefer to figure it out later? Do they automatically calculate their exact share of a group dinner bill down to the penny? Or are they comfortable with rough estimates? These subtle behaviors reveal deeper attitudes about financial cooperation. When Ashley noticed her boyfriend Jake meticulously tracking every dollar they spent together on a weekend getaway, she initially found it off-putting. Later, she realized this wasn't stinginess, but rather his way of ensuring fairness. His precise approach complemented her more relaxed attitude toward money, creating a balanced partnership once they understood each other's styles. Looking to start these conversations naturally? Try these conversation starters during your next date. My friend just moved in with her boyfriend, and apparently they're having all these arguments about splitting expenses. How would you handle that situation? I was listening to this podcast about couples and money, and they mentioned scheduled money dates to discuss finances. Does that sound helpful or horrible to you? I'm thinking about switching banks. Do you like yours? By the way, do you think couples should have joint accounts or keep things separate? What's fascinating is how someone's preference for joint or separate finances often reveals deeper relationship values. Those who strongly prefer joint accounts might value partnership and equality above all, while those who insist on separation might prioritize independence and self-reliance. Neither approach is inherently right or wrong. What matters is finding someone whose financial management style complements yours. Regular financial check-ins, whether monthly or quarterly, help couples stay aligned on their goals and responsibilities. Some couples even implement scheduled money dates, specific times set aside to discuss finances in a relaxed setting. This approach transforms potentially stressful money talks into a collaborative experience. So are separate bank accounts a healthy choice or a sign of relationship problems? Despite what your grandmother might think, separate accounts don't indicate lack of commitment or trust issues. They're perfectly healthy when the arrangement is transparent, mutually agreed upon, and works for both partners. What's unhealthy is having hidden accounts or financial secrets. The arrangement itself isn't the problem. The best system is the one that fits your unique relationship. Some couples maintain separate day-to-day accounts but join forces for major goals like home purchases or retirement. Others keep everything combined except for small personal accounts that allow for surprise gifts and individual spending. The key is regular communication and mutual agreement, not following someone else's blueprint. Timing is everything. When to have these money talks. Now that we know what financial systems work for different couples, there's still that awkward elephant in the room. When do you actually have these money conversations? Too early, and you might come across as obsessed with money. Too late, and you could discover your dream partner has a financial nightmare hiding in their closet. Timing these financial discussions is incredibly delicate. Experts advise that initiating these conversations too early may seem materialistic, while waiting too long can lead to painful surprises that could have been avoided. It's like walking a tightrope between seeming money-hungry and being financially responsible. Let's be honest, most of us would rather discuss almost anything else on a date. Politics? Sure. Religion? Why not? But credit scores and student loan debt? Suddenly we're all looking at our phones pretending we got an urgent text. This awkwardness explains why so many couples end up waiting until they're already emotionally invested before discovering major financial incompatibilities. So when should you start introducing these financial topics? Let me break it down into a relationship timeline that won't kill the romance. First few dates. This is observation time. You're not asking direct questions yet, but paying attention to subtle clues. Do they insist on splitting the bill or get anxious when calculating the tip? Do they mention being budget conscious when planning activities? Or do they spend freely without any apparent concern? These early behaviors reveal a lot about someone's money personality without having a formal money talk. Third to fifth date. Once you've established some connection, you can begin introducing lighter financial topics naturally. For example, when discussing career goals, you might mention, "I'm hoping to pay off my student loans in the next 3 years. Have you had to deal with student debt too?" This opens the door without making it feel like an interrogation. Becoming exclusive 1 to 3 months. At this stage, you can start discussing basic financial values and goals. Questions like, what would you do if you got an unexpected bonus? Or, do you see yourself buying a home someday? Help reveal long-term financial thinking without demanding specific numbers. Getting serious? 3 to 6 months. Now's the time to discuss debt more directly. If you're considering a future together, knowing each other's credit situations becomes increasingly important. Try, "I've been working on improving my credit score so we could qualify for better rates if we ever want to get a place together. How do you feel about credit?" Before making major commitments, 6+ months. Before moving in together, getting engaged, or making other significant life changes, you should have a complete picture of each other's finances. This includes specific debt amounts, income, savings, and spending habits. If you haven't had these conversations by this point, it's definitely time. But how do you make these conversations feel natural instead of like a job interview? Here are some organic openings that won't make your date run for the hills. Use current events. I was reading about how interest rates are affecting student loans. Did your loans get impacted by that? Share your own experience first. I just paid off my car loan, and it feels amazing. Have you had any financial wins lately you're proud of? Connect it to future plans. I'd love to travel to Japan someday, but I'm saving up first. Do you have any big things you're saving for? React to something in the moment. If they mention wanting to buy a house someday, you can ask, have you started saving for a down payment yet? I've been putting a little away each month. Sometimes these conversations still don't go smoothly, no matter how carefully you introduce them. If your partner seems defensive or uncomfortable, don't push. Simply say, this topic seems stressful right now. We can revisit it when you're feeling more comfortable. Then try again later in a different context. Watch for their body language when money comes up. Do they tense up, change the subject, or engage openly? These reactions tell you a lot about their financial comfort level and past experiences with money discussions. A partner who consistently avoids financial conversations even after several months together might be hiding something or have unresolved money trauma. This avoidance itself is valuable information about your compatibility. On the flip side, someone who's willing to have these conversations, even if they're not perfect with money, shows maturity and openness. This willingness to discuss uncomfortable topics often predicts how they'll handle other relationship challenges too. Consider Mia and Tyler's experience. They'd been dating for 2 months. Casually mentioned her goal of being debt-free by 30. Tyler immediately changed the subject. When she brought it up again a few weeks later, he got defensive, saying money discussions were too serious for where they were in their relationship. 6 months in, Mia discovered why. Tyler had maxed out 3 credit cards and hadn't made payments in months. Had she recognized his avoidance as the red flag it was, she could have saved herself a lot of heartache. Compare that to Jamie and Alex. On their 4th date, Alex mentioned wanting to travel more, but needing to be careful with money after making some mistakes in college. Jamie appreciated the honesty and shared her own experience with a budgeting app that helped her manage expenses better. This early, low-pressure exchange set the tone for increasingly open financial discussions as their relationship progressed. Remember that the right timing also depends on your life stage. If you're both 22 and just starting your careers, detailed retirement planning discussions might feel premature. But if you're 35 with established careers, waiting 6 months to discuss financial goals could waste valuable time. The best approach is gradual escalation. Start with values-based questions before moving to specific numbers. What did your family teach you about money growing up? Reveals far more about compatibility than asking their salary right away, and it's much less likely to create defensiveness. Financial conversations should deepen at roughly the same pace as emotional intimacy. As trust builds in other areas, money talks should become more detailed and specific. If there's a significant mismatch, like they're ready to discuss everything else but consistently avoid money topics, take note of this imbalance. Each successful money conversation builds confidence for the next one. Start small, celebrate the openness, and gradually red flags versus green flags, what their answers really mean. Those small financial conversations reveal more than just numbers. They're windows into your partner's entire financial personality. While you're nodding along to their explanation about that temporary credit card debt, your brain should be playing detective, separating the genuine green flags from the relationship-ending red ones. Because let's face it, that casual response about forgetting to pay bills might seem minor today, but could signal the financial chaos waiting for you tomorrow. Think about how differently 2 people might respond to the same money question. When you ask, how do you feel about your current debt? One person might openly share their repayment strategy with a hint of accountability, while another might immediately become defensive, change the subject, or vaguely suggest it's not a big deal. These reactions aren't random. They're previews of how financial conversations will unfold throughout your relationship. The challenge comes when those heart eyes start clouding your judgment. We've all been there. making excuses for financial red flags because we're smitten with someone's personality, looks, or how they make us feel. That's why having a mental checklist of financial warning signs can protect your heart and your bank account when emotions are running high. Let's talk about those red flags you should never ignore. Defensiveness tops the list. If your simple money question triggers an emotional reaction, pay attention. When someone responds with, "Why are you so obsessed with money?" or "That's really personal, don't you think?" they're not just avoiding the question. They're showing how they'll handle financial pressure in the future. Vagueness is another warning sign. Listen for responses filled with probably, maybe, or I think when discussing specific financial details. Someone who can't give you clear answers about their debt, income, or spending habits either. Doesn't know their own finances, alarming, or is deliberately hiding information, even more alarming. Watch for contradictions too. If your partner claims to be financially responsible but constantly has mysterious cash flow problems, that disconnect matters. Or if they proudly talk about saving for retirement but can't explain their actual retirement strategy when asked, the inconsistency tells you something important. The most subtle red flag is responsibility shifting. Listen for phrases like, "My ex made all our financial decisions," or "My parents always handled that stuff." While everyone starts their financial journey somewhere, an unwillingness to take ownership of their financial present suggests they might expect you to carry the burden in the future. But it's not all warning signs. Green flags exist too, and they're worth celebrating when you spot them. Openness about finances, even when the numbers aren't perfect, indicates emotional maturity. Someone who can say, "I made some credit card mistakes in college that I'm still fixing, and here's my plan," demonstrates self-awareness and accountability that predicts healthy financial communication. Another positive sign is when someone willingly discusses money without defensiveness. If they can engage in financial conversations without getting emotional or defensive, you found someone who separates their self-worth from their net worth, a crucial quality for building financial harmony. Regular financial check-ins show remarkable commitment to transparency. If your partner proactively brings up money topics or suggests setting financial goals together, they're showing a collaborative mindset that's surprisingly rare. The most overlooked green flag? A willingness to learn and grow. Maybe they don't have perfect financial habits yet, but if they're reading books on money management, watching financial videos, or asking questions about improving their situation, that growth mindset can be more valuable than someone who already has everything figured out but is closed to new ideas. It's important to distinguish between temporary financial struggles and problematic patterns. Someone working through student debt with a clear repayment strategy is very different from someone who repeatedly maxes out credit cards with no plan. Look at the pattern behind the numbers. Consider Alex and Jordan's story. When Alex discovered Jordan had $15,000 in credit card debt, initial panic set in. But instead of hiding details, Jordan openly shared the full credit card statements, explained how the debt accumulated during a period of unemployment, and showed the spreadsheet tracking their paydown progress over the past 6 months. The debt itself wasn't ideal, but Jordan's transparency, ownership, and proactive approach all signaled financial responsibility despite the temporary setback. Compare this to Taylor and Morgan. When Taylor casually mentioned checking their credit scores before apartment hunting, Morgan immediately changed the subject. Later questions about budgeting for the move were met with vague assurances that everything would work out. After moving in together, Taylor discovered Morgan hadn't paid rent in 3 months at their previous apartment and had been hiding collection notices. The red flags weren't the financial troubles themselves, but the pattern of secrecy and avoidance. Here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes financial differences can actually strengthen relationships. A natural saver paired with someone who's better at thoughtful spending can create balance. One partner might excel at big-picture financial planning, while the other manages day-to-day expenses perfectly. These complementary skills can create a financial partnership stronger than either person could maintain alone. But other financial differences create fundamental incompatibility. If one partner believes debt is absolutely unacceptable while the other views credit cards as free money, no amount of communication will bridge that values gap. Or if one partner needs detailed budgets to feel secure, while the other experiences budgets as suffocating restriction, the daily friction might prove unsustainable. The most complicated situations involve mixed signals, combinations of red and green flags that leave you confused. Maybe they're completely transparent about their finances, green flag, but show zero interest in creating a financial plan, red flag. Or perhaps they're excellent at managing their own money, green flag, but become controlling about your spending, red flag. These mixed signal scenarios require careful consideration of the overall pattern and whether the concerning behaviors are becoming more or less prominent over time. Trust your instincts when something feels off. That unexplained nervousness you feel when money topics arise might be your subconscious connecting dots your conscious mind hasn't recognized yet. Financial compatibility isn't about finding someone with a perfect credit score. It's about finding someone whose approach to money fundamentally works with yours. Income imbalance, when one partner earns significantly more. Beyond having compatible money approaches, let's talk about one of the most awkward financial realities many couples face, the income gap. Picture this. One partner brings home $150,000 a year, while the other earns $30,000. That 5-to-1 ratio isn't just about different numbers on your paychecks. It creates relationship dynamics that no romantic comedy ever prepared you for. Income differences can create serious power imbalances if you don't handle them thoughtfully. I've seen so many relationships where the higher earning partner slowly takes control of all financial decisions, sometimes without even realizing it. I make more, so I decide more, becomes the unspoken rule that slowly poisons everything. Take Elise and Marco. When they started dating, they were both making around $40,000. 6 years later, Elise's tech career skyrocketed to $180,000 while Marco remained passionate about his nonprofit work at $45,000. At first, everything seemed fine. They split expenses proportionally based on income, but subtle changes started creeping in. Elise began making unilateral decisions about vacations because she was paying for most of it anyway. Marco stopped contributing ideas for their future home because he wasn't contributing much to the down payment. Their once equal partnership had morphed into an uncomfortable power dynamic neither of them wanted. Or consider Jared and Kim. When Jared's business took off and his income quadrupled, he started surprising Kim by paying off her student loans without discussing it first. While his intentions were good, Kim felt like her financial independence was being erased. I became the kept partner in our relationship, she told me. Every purchase I made felt like I was spending his money, even though I worked full-time. These income imbalances often reveal deeper issues around worth, contribution, and equality. The key to preventing these problems? Having specific conversations before resentment builds. Start by asking, how should we split expenses if one of us earns significantly more? The answer isn't automatically 50-50. That approach can financially strain the lower earning partner. Many successful couples use proportional models where each person contributes the same percentage of their income toward joint expenses. Another essential question, what financial decisions should require mutual agreement regardless of who earns more? Is it purchases over a certain amount? Investment choices? Career decisions that affect your joint finances? The specifics matter less than establishing that earning more doesn't equal having more decision-making power. Also discuss, how will we maintain financial independence within our relationship? Many couples with income gaps find that maintaining separate fund money accounts, even if one is smaller than the other, preserves a sense of autonomy for both partners. There are 3 main approaches couples use to handle income differences. First, the proportional approach. Amir and Layla allocate expenses based on income percentage. Since Amir earns 70% of their combined income, he covers 70% of their shared expenses. This feels fair to both of them and ensures neither is stretched too thin. Second, the pooled income approach. Dakota and Jordan put everything into joint accounts and budget together, considering all money as our money. regardless of who earned what. This works beautifully for couples with high financial trust and similar spending habits. Third, the hybrid model. Tasha and Wei maintain separate accounts for personal spending, plus a joint account for shared expenses they contribute to proportionally. This maintains individual autonomy while acknowledging income differences. What makes these approaches successful isn't the system itself, but the thoughtful conversations behind them. The lower-earning partner needs to feel their contribution is valued beyond just dollars, while the higher-earning partner needs to feel their hard work is appreciated without being expected to fund everything. Watch for concerning attitudes about income differences during dating. If someone casually mentions, "Whoever makes more should have the final say," that's a massive red flag. So is someone who seems embarrassed by earning less, or someone who acts entitled to their partner's higher income. I remember Mike telling me about his first date with someone who asked what car he drove and where he lived within the first 15 minutes. When he mentioned his modest sedan and apartment, she visibly lost interest. "I dodged a bullet," he told me later. She wasn't looking for a partner, she was looking for a wallet. Equally concerning is the higher earner who constantly reminds their partner of the income gap. Comments like, "Well, I'm paying for most of this anyway," or "If you made more, we could afford better," reveal that they view income as a measure of relationship worth. These income differences often expose deep-seated values around gender roles, power dynamics, and what fair really means in a relationship. A partner who believes men should always out-earn women might struggle in a relationship where that's not the case. Someone raised in a household where money equaled control might unconsciously recreate those patterns. The most successful couples navigate income differences by focusing on equality of contribution rather than equality of amounts. They recognize that contributing 30% of a smaller income requires the same sacrifice as contributing 30% of a larger one. They make major financial decisions together, regardless of who brings home the bigger paycheck. Take Riley and Sam. Despite a $90,000 difference in their annual incomes, they've maintained an equal partnership for over 8 years. Their secret? They contribute proportionally to joint expenses, maintain separate discretionary accounts, even though Riley's is larger, and have monthly financial check-ins where both voices carry equal weight. Most importantly, they recognize that Sam's lower-paying career in education provides value that can't be measured in dollars. "We decided early on that my earning more didn't mean I got more votes in our financial decisions," Riley explained. "Money is just one form of contribution to our partnership. Sam's work schedule allows him to handle more household management, which is just as valuable as my higher income." The hard truth, when financial incompatibility is a deal-breaker. Is breaking up with someone over financial differences shallow? Or could it be one of the most mature decisions you'll ever make? Today, we're tackling the elephant in the room, when financial incompatibility becomes a deal-breaker, no matter how deep your love runs. Equal partnerships require more than just fair money management systems. They demand compatible financial values at their core. But here's the uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask. Is breaking up with someone you love because of how they handle money shallow, or actually one of the most mature decisions you could make? Let's be honest, making the call to end a relationship over money feels cold, calculated, even heartless. We're taught that love should conquer all obstacles, including financial ones. But this well-meaning belief has left countless couples trapped in cycles of resentment, anxiety, and conflict that could have been avoided if they'd recognized fundamental incompatibility earlier. Meet Vanessa, who ignored every financial red flag with her boyfriend Carlos. He had this live-for-today philosophy that seemed so refreshing at first, she told me. I found his carefree attitude toward money charming, until we moved in together. That's when Vanessa discovered Carlos regularly overdrafted his account, borrowed money from friends without repaying it, and had never saved a penny despite earning a solid income. I kept telling myself, love would be enough, that he'd change once we got more serious, she said. 3 years and thousands in shared debt later, she finally accepted that their fundamental values around money weren't just different, they were irreconcilable. Then there's Damien. who stayed with his financially controlling partner for 5 years. She made twice what I did, but insisted on approving every purchase I made, even with my own money, he explained. I thought if I just worked harder or earned more, the power dynamic would balance out. It never did. The relationship had morphed into a parent-child dynamic that undermined his autonomy and self-worth. So what financial differences truly constitute deal breakers? Financial experts identify several incompatibilities that rarely improve with time. First, fundamentally opposed attitudes toward financial independence. When one partner values financial autonomy while the other prefers dependency, resentment inevitably follows. Research shows that financial independence fosters mutual respect and equality, essential ingredients for relationship satisfaction. Without these elements, power imbalances can create increasing stress and conflict over time. Second, irreconcilable risk tolerances. If one partner's idea of security is a 6-month emergency fund, while the other feels comfortable living paycheck to paycheck, neither will ever feel at peace with shared finances. One will always feel deprived, the other perpetually anxious. Third, severe financial secrecy or dishonesty. While many issues can be worked through with communication and compromise, chronic financial deception indicates deeper problems with trust and respect that extend beyond money itself. Fourth, fundamentally incompatible financial goals. If one partner's primary goal is maximum wealth accumulation, while the other prioritizes experiences and living in the moment, neither can fully realize their vision without the other feeling resentful or unfulfilled. In contrast, issues that couples can typically navigate with effort include different incomes with mutual respect, different money management styles with transparent communication, different spending priorities with compromise, and prior financial mistakes with accountability and growth. So how can you determine if your financial differences are fixable or fundamental? Ask yourself these crucial questions. Do we share core financial values even if we express them differently? Values like security, independence, generosity, and responsibility often matter more than specific habits. Is my partner willing to have difficult financial conversations, even when uncomfortable? Avoidance versus engagement reveals much about potential for growth. Do we both demonstrate financial empathy, the ability to understand and respect each other's financial feelings and needs, even when different from our own? Has my partner shown genuine willingness to adapt financial behaviors when problems arise? Look for patterns, not promises. Can I envision a financial future that honors both our needs? Or would one of us always need to sacrifice core values? If you've realized your financial incompatibility might be a deal breaker, having that conversation requires immense courage and compassion. Start by choosing a neutral time and place. Never during or immediately after a financial argument. Use I statements that focus on values and feelings rather than criticizing their habits. I've realized that financial security is essential for my happiness. Works better than, your spending habits are irresponsible. Focus the conversation on incompatibility rather than right versus wrong. We seem to have fundamentally different approaches to money that are causing both of us stress. Acknowledges that neither approach is inherently wrong, just wrong together. Avoid ultimatums unless you're genuinely prepared to follow through. And remember that acknowledging incompatibility can be an act of kindness, freeing both people to find more suitable partners. Eric shared how ending his relationship over financial values felt devastating, but ultimately right. We loved each other. But after 2 years of constant money fights, I realized neither of us could be our authentic selves without making the other miserable. Breaking up hurt terribly, but staying together would have meant one of us living in constant financial anxiety. Sometimes love isn't enough to overcome fundamental differences in how we want to live. This growing willingness to prioritize financial compatibility reflects changing attitudes among younger generations. Unlike their parents, who often stayed in financially stressful marriages, millennials and Gen Z recognize that financial compatibility directly impacts well-being and relationship success. Having watched their parents argue about money during economic downturns, they're more likely to view financial compatibility as essential rather than optional. Beyond generational experience, economic factors play a role too. With record student loan burdens, housing costs, and career instability, younger adults simply can't afford to ignore financial incompatibility. The stakes are too high when financial mistakes can take decades to recover from. Perhaps most importantly, financial independence has become increasingly valued as an essential component of healthy relationships. As one relationship counselor explained, financial independence allows partners to choose each other daily from a place of want rather than need. When financial dependency creates power imbalances, mutual respect, the foundation of lasting the weekend money date, a simple practice that saves relationships. While financial independence creates the foundation for respect, there's one simple habit that builds the walls of trust. What if I told you that the couples who stay together aren't necessarily the ones with perfect money habits, but the ones who talk about money in a specific way at a specific time every single week? I'm talking about the money date, a dedicated 30-minute conversation that research shows can dramatically reduce financial tension in relationships. A study found that couples who regularly discuss their financial goals and progress are more likely to achieve those goals and report higher relationship satisfaction. But here's the problem. As relationships progress and your finances become more intertwined, money conversations often become more complex and emotionally charged. What started as simple discussions about who pays for dinner can evolve into heated debates about retirement accounts, housing decisions, and long-term financial goals. Think about it. Most couples only talk about money when there's a problem. Your partner overspends on something you think is unnecessary. A surprise bill arrives. Someone loses their job. No wonder money conversations feel so stressful. When finance talks only happen during crises, they become associated with anxiety and tension. The money date flips this dynamic completely. Instead of reactive, emergency-driven discussions, you're proactively managing your financial relationship during calm, dedicated time. Here's how successful couples structure their weekly money dates. Start with a 15-minute review of what happened financially in the past week. Did you stick to your spending plan? Any unexpected expenses? Any wins to celebrate? Keep this part factual and judgment-free. Then spend 10 minutes looking ahead to the coming week. What bills are due? Any major purchases to discuss? Any financial decisions that need to be made together? Finally, spend 5 minutes checking in on your progress toward bigger financial goals. This keeps the conversation forward-looking and positive. The key is consistency. Pick a specific day and time, maybe Sunday mornings over coffee or Tuesday evenings after dinner. Make it a regular part of your routine, just like any other important habit. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like the least romantic date ever. And you're right, if you approach it like a business meeting. But successful couples turn their money dates into something they actually look forward to. Meet Rachel and David, who've been doing weekly money dates for 3 years. They always start by making their favorite drinks, coffee for her, tea for him, and sitting in their most comfortable chairs. They begin each session by sharing one financial win from the week, no matter how small. We paid an extra $50 toward our car loan, or I packed lunch every day instead of buying it. This positive start sets the tone for the entire conversation. The secret to making money dates work isn't just what you discuss, but how you discuss it. Use I statements instead of accusations. I feel nervous when our savings account drops below $5,000 works better than you spend too much money. Take turns speaking without interruption. And if emotions start running high, agree to take a 10-minute break before continuing. Another couple, Mika and James, add a special twist to their monthly money dates. After reviewing their finances, they always end by dreaming about a future goal, their next vacation, their future home, or their retirement vision. This connects their current financial decisions to their shared future dreams. But what if you're in a newer relationship? How do you introduce the concept of money dates without making things weird? Start small. After dating for a few months, try suggesting a casual conversation about an upcoming shared expense, like a weekend trip. Hey, should we talk about how we want to handle expenses for our trip next month? This plants the seed for regular financial communication. As your relationship progresses, you can gradually introduce more structured conversations. I've been trying to get better at managing my money. Would you be open to us checking in about our finances once a month? I'd love your perspective. The beauty of money dates is that they prevent small issues from snowballing into relationship-ending problems. Remember Alex and Taylor from earlier? If they'd been having regular money dates from the beginning, Alex would have discovered Taylor's spending habits long before they moved in together, giving them a chance to address the issue when it was still manageable. Regular money dates also create a safe space to discuss financial topics that might otherwise feel too awkward to bring up. Imagine discovering a great investment opportunity but feeling hesitant to mention it, because money talks always seem to end in arguments. With established money date routine, you have a dedicated time to share these ideas in a positive context. What's really fascinating is how money dates often spill over into improving other areas of communication in relationships. Couples who master financial conversations often find themselves better equipped to handle other challenging topics. The skills you build during money dates, active listening, expressing needs clearly, problem solving together, strengthen your relationship foundation. Consider Jamie and Sarah, who started weekly money dates after a huge argument about credit card debt. They were skeptical at first, but 6 months in, they noticed something unexpected. Not only were their financial disagreements less frequent, but they were also communicating better about parenting decisions, household responsibilities, and even their intimate life. The structured communication skills they developed during money dates had improved their entire relationship. For couples dealing with significant income differences, money dates become even more valuable. They provide a regular opportunity to ensure both partners feel heard and respected, regardless of who earns more. One high-earning partner shared, "Our weekly money check-ins keep me from making unilateral decisions just because I contribute more financially. They remind me we're equal partners regardless of our incomes." The most successful money dates happen when both partners come prepared but flexible. Having an agenda helps, but being willing to adapt the conversation to address whatever financial concerns are most pressing that week is equally important. Let's wrap this up. When you think about investments that truly matter, it's not just about assets that appreciate over time. It's finding someone whose financial vision aligns with yours. That emotional and financial compatibility pays dividends no stock market ever could. According to research, 54% of couples believe financial independence positively impacts their relationship satisfaction. This makes perfect sense. When both partners maintain healthy financial boundaries while working toward shared goals, the foundation for lasting happiness gets so much stronger. Having these money conversations won't guarantee you'll never argue about finances, but they dramatically reduce the likelihood of relationship-ending financial surprises. Think of these discussions as preventative maintenance for your relationship. Your homework this week is simple but powerful. Choose just one financial conversation from this video and have it with your partner. Whether you're just starting to date or celebrating your 10th anniversary, your future self will thank you for the investment you're making today in your relationship's financial harmony.